Such an incredible show with such an incredible fan base. I want to know, both Michael and David, give them the thumbs up back. Come on. Michael and David.
Put your phones down and be here.
It's a good idea. You know what?
You dick.
I was gonna do the same thing, like, hey.
You know what? This is reflective of everyone I've ever met in the cast. You guys all get along so well, and despite such a show about a zombie apocalypse with such a dark undertone and talking about not only the undertone of the zombies, but what the humans go through, you guys truly seem to enjoy working together, and it really comes across. Michael, David, obviously your characters were in the comics. When you first got the script to audition, did you know anything about the origin material, or how did you sort of begin creating the governor? We can start with David.
I knew because Andrew Lincoln's a really great friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and likewise Lenny James, who plays Morgan. So, I was interested in their work, and they got this show, and I checked it out. I didn't know the comics at all, so I watched the first season, and I thought it was fantastic. And then I was in LA, I was visiting a friend of mine who was living in LA, and my manager said, The Walking Dead want to see you. And I said, okay, what's the role? And they went, they won't tell you. And American actors are used to...
You're replacing Andy Lincoln.
Yeah, if only. But American actors are used to this, I'm not used to this. There's so much secrecy around shows like this that, they'll tell you how long you have to sign a contract for, which will be like 7 years, but they won't tell you what the role is. And I'm like, wow, how do you make a decision like that? So that was all very new to me. And then I met them, and then obviously I knew Andy, so he gave me a call and said, it's a great show to be on. And he told me it was a good part, I didn't know what the part was. And then slowly I found out, and then, got the role, came down to Atlanta. And I think we would all say, it's a great place to work. I mean, it's a really great workforce and people who work on the show. It's wonderful.
And the governor, I mean, obviously he's, the antagonistical character. He's very nice.
He's a nice guy.
I mean, it's interesting though. He has a Jekyll and Hyde type personality, and it's shown through his love for his daughter even after she reanimated.
Yeah, he keeps her in the closet with a bag on her head. He likes this girl.
But
It's just a huge misunderstanding.
It's been a big misunderstanding, officer. Yeah.
Every once in a while, you do see that touch of humanity in him. So how, as an actor, did you create that dynamic?
Well, it's the writers. The writers gave me that. They gave me that complexity. I think the writing on the show. I think why actors love doing the show is, the writers give you a big range. They give you a whole set of emotions. You go to work and you have a good time because it's asking a lot of you, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically as well. So it was all in the writing. I have to say that the thing that I really got to was Jay Bazinga's books, which are The Rise of the Governor, The Road to Woodbury, and all that. They're great novels. So a lot of my characterization came from that.
Well, it's one of my favorite characters on television ever, so amazing job. You guys can clap for that. Michael, with Abraham, he is obviously famous for his little one-liners and his... Exactly. But I want to know, let's just cut to the chase. When did you know that you were going to be the victim of Negan for that premiere episode of season 7?
For the premiere, we didn't know for the premiere right away. I knew that both Steve and I knew that we found it in the August prior to the end of the season, which would have been in November, that we were going to die either at the end of that season 6, which would have been November, or the beginning of the next season, which would have been in May. So we knew a good 4 or 5 months before we might die. 9 months before we actually died, a year and a half before you guys saw it.
And what was the filming of that? I mean, that is such a powerful moment, that whole culmination of end of season 6, beginning of season 7. How was the filming? And did you improvise that line after you got your first bash by Lucille?
No, we didn't know. There's not too much improvising. There was a potential. The alternate line that we never got was "suck my red nuts," which
Which I like as well.
would have been good. But I think they did all right with "suck my nuts." I think it'll live in history. Shooting it was, as David was saying, that one of the great things about doing the show is the material, but also the cast. It's a very, very large, giving group of artists. The cool thing about filming the end of it was that, or our death, was being in that semicircle. You're sort of in a position as a performer to sort of watch everyone else perform, because you can, when you're reacting off of everybody around you and looking to your fellow performers, you're seeing all this amazing work that everybody's doing as they're all, you know, individually reacting to what's going on. And in a lot of the deaths that we have, we don't have everybody there. Typically, you know, it'll start with maybe one or two people will be there for the incident, and then they're brought back, and then they'll, you know, have individual interactions. This was a case where it was literally set up like a theater, and, you know, what was on display and was being performed was our deaths. And to be able to sort of share that with the other performers was pretty amazing. The actual death, the hits, the blows, the special effects of it all, it gets cut up into lots of little pieces. So what you guys see, that, you know, runs very smoothly from beginning to end, for us is a very disjointed sort of process where you go away for 45 minutes, you get one prosthetic put on, and then when you get your hit, Ed and I would go away and get swapped out while they were shooting over here doing Stevens. So once we get the whole group and the reactions and the individual reactions of everybody in the whole group together, it does become very sort of methodical and scientific. And a lot of the emotion sort of gets pulled out of it until it gets put back together.
Yeah, it was an extremely powerful moment, as was when you took out Herschel.
Hey, he's walked it off, he's fine.
Well, now the head you cut off is now in the Smithsonian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So good job on
Signed a
that.
lot of those heads, I have to say.
Nicely done there.
Well done.
Jeremy, obviously this show was established when you came on, and getting to be part of such a popular and amazing show had to be something pretty special. What were your feelings when you first auditioned for the role, and were you intimidated when you showed up on set?
Oh yeah, I was. I had read for the show actually a couple of years prior to, so I actually read for the pilot, and then I'd read for a couple roles here and there, and I actually read for the role of Dwight at one point, so I was really glad to be on their radar. And I remember when I read for Andy, you know, the scripts that we get as actors in the audition process, I was probably different for you guys, but have nothing to do with the show. Same? So when I read it, I was like a bank robbery scene or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And when I booked the role, I was working as a bartender, which I am the worst bartender in the world. Don't ever order anything from me. And I got so excited that I was gonna be a part of this. And then just sheer terror kind of took over for like about 24 hours because I didn't get the script, and, you know, I'd driven up to Atlanta, and then I got the sides, and they brought me on the set a day early, which was great because I had to try on my cast and everything. And they put it on my right hand, so I'm going around trying to meet the cast and crew, giving high fives to everybody. But no, once I met everybody, all that pressure, everything went away. Because it was a unique set in the fact that it really did feel like a family, and everybody was welcoming from the top down. From the PAs to like Andrew Lincoln were just amazing. And I think my second day on set, I had to climb on top of Cudlitz here for about 2 hours and choke him out, so we got to know each other pretty well.
Fast friends. I'm sure you guys have questions. There's 2 mics in the aisles, so you can line up and we'll get through as many as possible. And while you guys line up, Michael, you have sort of the credit of playing various walkers through various seasons. Tell us about the first time you played a walker on the show, and what sort of like the process is. Isn't there a little bit of like a boot camp you go to? And
Yeah, there is. It's the zombie school, and I started on season 2, and it's basically the audition. I mean, it's us acting like zombies in front of a lot of really important people, and I felt really silly But it was a ton of fun. I mean, they were locking us in closets. We had to break out of closets and just reacting to like noises and stuff. And it was kind of funny because we were in there, and Greg Nicotero was the one that was doing the kind of walk through the zombie school. And the whole time he was trying to talk, you kept hearing this motorcycle revving outside. And it literally happened every time he would start talking. So finally he went out to check on it, and it was Norman literally sitting right outside there, listening anytime he started talking and he'd rev. So Norman came in and talked to us for a while. It was a lot of fun.
Is there sort of a camaraderie amongst you guys who go through this prosthetic process tell us a little bit about that.
There really is, because there's like a group of us that they use over and over again for a lot of the really featured walkers. And so we've definitely formed our own little clique. And it's funny because we can even recognize each other in makeup easier than we can out of makeup.
That's really funny.
You're sitting around and you're waiting for your makeup and you're kind of looking at these people like, who is this? And then after you're in makeup and you see them kind of standing practicing the moves like, oh, hey, how's it going?
That's great. Hi, how are you? We'll start with you.
This question is for David. If the governor was still alive and ran into the saviors, would he try to take Negan out, or would he join forces with him against Rhode?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, that. I mean, I think one of the things the governor was really good at is, like, playing different roles. You know, you didn't know where you stood with him. I think what he would do is probably play very low status around Negan and sort of get involved with his group and sort of be very sort of subservient to him, and slightly then, during that, sort of get his trust and sort of then just kill him when he got close to him. But, you know, he's obviously a character you could never trust, so I think he'd probably make some sort of pact with Rick because he sort of knows Rick. Somebody made a very good observation the other day, though, you know, where Rick is and his group are our heroes because we've been following them from day one. But if you followed Negan from day one, or the governor from day one, they would be your heroes. I mean, it's such a muddy world now, and morally people are making decisions which are very suspect, regardless of where they are. So the idea of a hero is only because you've spent more screen time with them. So, you know, it's an interesting one.
Thank you. Great question. Hi.
Hello. I have a question for you again. So I wanted to know if you feel the governor was a changed man after meeting his new family.
Yeah, I do. I think he was trying to be a changed man. I think, you know, when he saw that little girl and, you know, it sort of reminded him of his own daughter and his own wife and family. You know, in this world, what's really dangerous is to love someone, you know, to actually be vulnerable, to actually...
Yeah.
I'm talking about the show now.
And I go, no, he's happy. He's dead.
But it's that thing of once you've got something to lose, it's really... So he was trying with that new family, and I think he really believed it, but, you know, he showed his true colours in the end and got a tank, which is always handy. But yeah, so I do think there was complexities in him, and he was really hoping that with that family there was a chance to start again.
Yeah, because he prides himself on protecting those...
Yeah, that's what he wanted to
Yeah.
do, you know, he sort of wanted to protect, and sometimes to protect the people you love, you have to sort of be horrible to people against you, you know, like he killed his entire town. I mean, I understand that. You know, you come to my town, no, but so there's tough decisions to be made.
Were the heads in the glass to harden himself? Is that the
Yeah,
impetus?
Well, that's true. I mean, I think what a lot of soldiers do is they sort of desensitize themselves against the enemy. So, you know, what they do is that he's looking at those heads and he's just hating them and building this hatred up in order to go out there and do what he needs to do. Also, there's no TV. You know? There's no
Watch the
TV.
heads.
So what's he going to do? He's going to sit there and watch heads in a tank. You know? It's sort of like most of the TV sometimes I watch at home anyway. You know, once it gets to a certain time in the evening, I'm just watching anything. So that's fine. So that's what he was doing.
The governor's binge watching his heads today.
He's watching going, God, get off.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my question's for David. You said you've read the books, The Rise and Fall. What inspirations did you take from them? Because I read the first one, and I'm currently reading the second one. I loved it. I loved the tidbits of Brian and everything. I thought it was a great book. What inspirations did you take from that?
So the real inspiration was his backstory, that he was a guy who, you know, before this terrible event happened in the world, he was someone who was, you know, he was a good guy, he was holding down a job, he was supporting his family, he was finding it tough, but, you know, he was paying his taxes and doing all those things that we do, and then this happened. and he and his brother go on the road with his brother's child, and the decisions that the man he turns into is because of the things that are coming at him one by one as he's on this adventure. And, you know, the survival adventure with his brother, and he idolizes his brother. I mean, his brother is a difficult, complex man, but he just sees in his elder brother someone who saved him and is an example to him about how he lives his life. And his brother does terrible things in this world, and then he slightly takes on both his natural characteristics and his brother's characteristics as well. So that's what I took from him. But you know, the thing that I really took from him is just a great read. You know, they're just great books. You just sit down and they just go for it. So, you know, I would really recommend people to read them. They're great reads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is his brother still alive?
Is what? No, so you have to read the books. His twin brother, yes, his twin brother's still alive. He's got his right eye missing. No, yeah, so.
Michael.
Hey, I can see a franchise.
Michael, with Abraham, what do you think was the most difficult moment for that character? Was it realizing that Eugene was not what he had said he was, and that in fact there wasn't the potential for a cure?
No. I think no, because it's kind of it's interesting because in the graphic novels when it's handled a little bit differently, it's sort of implied that Abraham knew that he was full of shit. Because at one point he drops the radio and it pops open and the batteries have obviously been corroded for a long time. And he has a conversation with Rick and he basically says, I kind of knew, but you need something to live for. You need something to drive for, and going to DC was that thing. I think for him, actually, honestly, the hardest thing was, and why he handled it so poorly was breaking off his relationship with Rosita. Because he had actually finally found love in his life, even more so than he had with his wife, who again, in the graphic novel says even though he witnessed this horrible thing go down with his family, he admits, he goes, I was never a good husband. So he really, in this world, as horrible as it is, what he finds with Sasha is life-changing.
It definitely shows a tender side
Absolutely.
of himself
And
that you don't see before then.
Yes, and it changes him. But then he sort of realizes how much a relationship of convenience turned into love. But he loves her, Rosita. He's not in love with her. And he knows it's going to crush her. And he doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't have the words to explain to her. He handles it horribly. And regrets that, I think, till the end. Because he doesn't handle it, properly.
Yeah, it's definitely a turning point for the character. And there's no resolution, really.
No.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Thank you guys all for putting on one of the greatest shows to ever grace the television. Do you guys have a favorite episode or season or anything that you guys either filmed or you like to rewatch?
Of the show?
Of the show, yes.
Of The Walking Dead. Do you guys even watch the show now that,
Never seen an episode. I'm totally kidding. No. I've seen it all. I watched the first season, and I gotta admit, I wasn't that into it. Like, I enjoyed it, but when I got cast, I went and I binged it all, and I loved every minute of it. But I loved when they found Sophia in the barn, because that's when it wasn't about zombies anymore. It was about the humanity of the show and the people, really. And I have to explain that to people who've never seen the show, which I'm sure there's none of you guys out there, but they're like, I just don't like zombies. And I'm like, maybe the first season you gotta deal with a lot of zombies, but after that, it is survival of the fittest. And that moment, and honestly when Herschel went to, was one of those moments that just, it crushes you, but it makes you respect the show. Governor.
7 Iron. Doof.
But it took you a couple tries, didn't it? It wasn't just
Yeah,
like...
a few times, yeah. Who knew?
It wasn't like, Last Samurai, just one quick swoop,
He
so...
wouldn't go
Yeah, the
down.
bad part about that is my daughter she was slamming doors, ripping posters off the walls, and she's like giving me the silent treatment. And I'm like, I didn't do it. It was him. She's mad at me because I'm going after everybody and I get killed, but she doesn't get upset when I get killed. Kill Herschel and she's
Guys
like,
would come up to me and go, hey man, you killed Christmas.
You're the Grinch.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey guys, thanks for coming down to Rhode Island. A lot of people have been discussing what they would actually do if a Walker apocalypse, possibly happened.
What people?
People who watch The Walking Dead.
These people are here.
But I'm very curious. What would you guys do? Like, how would you survive if a zombie apocalypse happened tomorrow?
I wouldn't.
my friends have already threatened to kill me. Because you're the most likely to be a zombie. I'm like, but why wouldn't I try
You're
to
so
survive?
good at it.
Yeah. Like, you have inside information. Well, then keep me.
Like Bill Murray in Zombieland, just dress up and just walk around.
But no, my best friend, he would be the one to come in and shoot me. It's like, I'm like, thanks.
You do know that there's not really a chance there's going to be a zombie apocalypse.
I'm a chemist. I took biology. It's impossible. So.
Just crushing spirits.
Talk to the guy in the CDC about that.
Do you have a bug out kit?
No.
All right. Anybody up here have one?
No? Do you have one?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Did you say a bug out kit?
A bug out kit. Like, if there is a
I
apocalypse.
thought she said, do you have a bug outfit? I don't even...
Ironically,
Oh yeah, I got one of them.
But I'm going to go get one.
I would have really loved if you would have said yes.
Yeah.
Thank
I have a bug
you.
outfit.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Hi, so my question is for Michael Cudlitz and David Morrissey. It's like a little what if, like my two favorite characters are sitting up here. It's a little bizarre and it's awesome and I love it. But how would things be different if Abraham and the governor had met in the timeline of the show?
Wow. See, the hypotheticals are sometimes fun, but then we sort of do what we're written to do.
Yeah, it's really hard because the other thing is those hypothetical things, which are great, and I think, people ask me questions like that all the time. But for us, when you're on this show, you've got so much to do in your own storyline that you're doing it. I mean, I do regret never working with Michael because, I'm such a fan of his, but you're full time doing what you're doing and certainly trying to do not just what's in front of you, but also, the characterization, the backstory and why you're doing things as well. So, I mean, it would be great to team up and do something together in the show, but I think the way they do it, and they keep those characters around in a really good way, but you're so full on doing what you're doing, right?
No, exactly, and it's hard.
Because we only met at the con. I mean, we met.
Yes, we never worked
one of
together.
the cons.
We met.
And we have lots of mutual friends, but we've never worked together, which maybe one day was good. But yeah, I don't know what would happen, but it would be a force to be reckoned with.
But and I'll put it in perspective because say the scene that didn't happen where Negan killed me, and somebody would say, well, what would happen if Abraham met Negan? I'd be like, well, I'd kill that bastard. Well, we know what happened. They're like, why didn't you get up? I'm like, because I was written to stay down. Deal
It's
with
really
it.
that thing of the writing is because we get the script, so an episode will take 8 days to shoot, and you sort of hear rumors about whether you're going or not, but you do yourself, but the other characters don't. So you get your script at lunchtime on the 4th or 5th day of shooting, and you go into your trailer, and you always read it backwards to see whether you're still alive. And then when you're still alive, you think, oh great, you turn it back over, you eat your lunch, and you read it a bit more later, and then someone dies. And you think, oh no, they're going. And then you come out of your trailer, and you all come out at the same time, and there's one door still closed. And it's your friend, it's one of your friends who's, basically lost their job. But it's always it is a tough moment that really goes around. you know. And we used to have these death dinners, but we had to stop. We had to stop doing them because if 4 of us went out for just a dinner, there was all these rumors like, which one of them's going to die, you know, stuff. So it was. So then we used to have them in people's houses and stuff.
Funny, I never got any of those death dinners.
Yeah.
but you gotta come back.
Well, he's dying again.
You wouldn't die. You kept coming back as different people. That was it.
Yeah, there's longevity to your position on the show.
Yeah, the funny thing when you're talking about the characters dying, I was actually in the makeup trailer getting makeup put on, and on the side of the wall they had a little paper that kind of tells you what they're doing, and at the very bottom, written in pencil, it said "Irony's head," and I was kind of sitting and reading, and I look at it, and I go, "Wait a minute." And I told him, what does this mean? They're like, well, that's his head right there on the counter. And so I lifted over this bust, and it's him screaming. And I went out of the trailer screaming when I found Irony. I always saw him first thing when I came out of the trailer. He just happened to always be there. And sure enough, he was there, and I'm like hugging him and crying, and he's like, what's wrong? I was like, your head's in there. that was rough.
All right, it's tough.
Thank you. Hi.
My question is for Michael. If Abraham was still alive, how would he react to Eugene leaving Rick after all they've been through?
Well, he'd probably punch him in the face again. But then he wouldn't be surprised. You know, it's like there's going to be 2 things left, you know, in the zombie apocalypse: roaches and Eugenes. But he's just a survivor. He's going to do what he has to do. He's being very, very true to his character by adapting. He saw what he felt was his protector, the biggest, strongest thing that he could find to hook onto, and this guy took him out. He knows that his only choice is to either die or figure out how to live.
Are you satisfied with that answer?
Sorry.
I like your shirt, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Hey guys, my question's for Michael. Out of all of your Abraham scenes in what you said, what is your favorite part of?
Favorite one-liner?
Favorite one-liner.
Earmuff kids.
My favorite. Well, it kind of changes because they were really kind to me. And it was a lot of fun. Probably suck my nuts.
It was a good one to go out on.
Yeah. But they started even, if you go back, the one-liners were sort of like embraced by you guys on Who's Deanna? And that was out of circumstance because it's like, you know, we all have this thing happen as actors, you know. I have this line and it's written, Who's Deanna? Where's Mom? And there's a scene that's going on and there's literally, we all go to Alexandria and there's 15 of us or 18 of us in the scene. And I'm back by the gate. Now they're having a conversation way up at the front of the 15. Talk. Deanna wants to see you. I'm all the way back here. Who's Deanna? Every head turns back to me like, what the fuck? What is your problem? And it was just out of necessity. It's like, well, nobody's going to hear me unless I sort of say it out loud. And it was so ridiculous that they were like, sort of took off. But if you go back, there's a bunch of other stuff that was in, you know, about killing the truck and the monkey's left nut, and, like all these things that didn't, you know, that haven't sort of caught as much steam, but they're just as fun. So they've been great to me since day one.
Thank you. Michael, you obviously Band of Brothers, great project. You did a lot of not just bonding with the cast there, but training for that. Did you bring any of that training over to Abraham?
I think all of us on stage here know that the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that everything is cumulative. I think we train as soldiers in one thing, and you take bits of things that go into another, command presence, things that you do in work and that you've done in the past that you can pull forward. You pull as much as you can because it makes your job easier and more rich, because if you've done the research on something, and a lot of these characters share a job, the characters themselves are very different, but the job and the skill set that they have in those are the same. If you're a doctor, you can pull a lot of things from, you know, study you've done from being a doctor before, and it just helps enhance everything and lets you sort of throw that stuff away and live in that world. So yeah, and I've been very fortunate to play a lot of soldiers, a lot of men in service, and I think it's all cumulative and useful.
Absolutely. Well, you were great in that as well. So,
Thank you.
hi.
Hi, so my question is for David, and I haven't read The Road to Liberty yet, so I'm sorry, this seems like a repeat question, but where do you think the governor's insanity really, blossomed? How did he go from a guy who's just trying to survive in this kind of world and doing, brutal things to a guy that keeps heads full of walkers and keeps his,
I think, I think the heads and the tanks is a different thing. I do think that's a thing he's doing to desensitize himself to the world he's living in, which is good. It's a thing that you have to do. Certainly it's things that soldiers do. I think before Penny died, he was a different person. He was a practical person. He was running a city, a town that was safe. Your kids could run out into the street, you had medical care, you had food, you had provisions, So he was running something, but that all comes with a cost. If you're the leader of that, it comes with a bit of a cost. He had a scientist in Milton and he had a bully boy in Rooker, so they were the two people he had. But then once he lost Penny and had this fight with Michonne and she kills Penny in front of him, then there's a redness, then he wants revenge on the world, then it becomes personal. And that's a different man from then on, and he's in a psychotic state. So that was a bit where I thought, there was a change there. And I really wanted that scene with Denai, who plays Michonne, to be very, very brutal and very sort of, messy, like a proper fight, that it was messy. And I witnessed this terrible killing of my daughter, and then I begged for her not to do it, and she does it straight in front of me. And also I just want to say about that, because, we've been talking about the cast, which is really important, and we all get on really well, but behind us is a team of people in The Walking Dead who are just second to none. They work, in order for us to do our job, to be safe in our job and to do lots of other things, there's a whole team behind there who are amazing, I think. And coming from England, I was very apprehensive about joining the show because it was such a great show, but that apprehension went on the morning I arrived, where everybody is so welcoming and really inclusive. And that sort of comes from, I think, comes from many people, but Andy Lincoln, who plays the lead, he really does, he's the first guy on set. He takes his work so seriously, so nobody else can really mess around, because he sets a bar. And you have to go for it. If the leading actor's doing all that, then there's no way you can cut corners, even if you wanted to, So, there's a hell of a lot of people that you need to thank behind us that are so working all the hours God said.
Thank you.
That was such a touching speech, and then all of a sudden a bird flew out. Someone's a magician over there.
There's been a bird in this hall the whole weekend.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you all for coming. My question's for David. In your scene with Herschel when you kill him, I think in the comics it was supposed to be Tyrese. When you got the script and you saw that it was Herschel, what was your reaction?
Honestly, it was really tough, because Scott and I are great friends in real life. We play golf together. He's a great guy, and I really love him. And when I was joining the show, he was one of the actors that I was really sort of excited to be working with. He was an actor, in Cold Blood and, In the Heat of the Night. Great films. He's an actor I've admired for a long time, and is a lovely man. He is a great guy. And I read it and I just thought, no, I'm never going to be able to leave the city. People are going to, I'm never going to be able to go out again, And it did come as a surprise. It came to all of us, really. And he wears those suspenders, those braces on his trousers and stuff. And the day we did that scene, all the crew turned up and they were all wearing the suspenders. So I took them all out. And there was a lot of tears that day. And I think, it is with lots of the characters that you love, it's hard, but one of the great things, apart from meeting the fans at the cons, meeting you lot, is that we get to meet each other again. It gives the show another life for us. And that's been really wonderful to, so I see Scott all the time. His head's doing well now. He's got his leg back. He's got very good insurance. But we all get on. It's a really tough show to die on, because you're leaving a lot of your friends behind. But thankfully we get to meet up. So it was tough, yeah.
Well, as a fan of the show, one of my favorite images is you two golfing together.
There was really, but me and Andy golf together as well. There was one bit where there's one course where you go out onto the road and you go over the road into another bit of the course, and I was driving the car and I got lost. So I ended up in this mall, and I was like, where the hell are we? And this guy came to help us, and he went, oh my God! So me and Andy in golf cart going, hi man! Could you tell me where the 17th is? And so that was really, he freaked out, this poor guy. So yeah, we play golf. Me and Scott play golf a lot, so it was quite weird. But just going out eating in Atlanta together, you know, when we all go out, it causes stuff. People are always generally really polite, but it does cause a bit of the stuff.
The show has changed the scope of the city. I mean, it's really brought the industry down, and now there's many productions shooting there.
Yeah, Atlanta's like, you know, it's where every actor comes through town eventually.
There's more film production in Atlanta, film and television production in Atlanta than any other city in the nation last year.
Wow.
And that, you know, the local crews are fantastic. You know, it's really.
Hi.
Welcome everyone here. I was going to ask Michael, you know, how much incorporated Paul Randleman into Abraham before, but just say how quickly do you think the zombie apocalypse will be over if Easy Company were around?
I don't know. I think we're still trying to figure out what the scope is of this zombie apocalypse. So I don't know. Easy Company would have tried to drop into the center of it. I don't know where the center is.
There you go.
It's me skirting the question.
Thank
Should've
you.
said quickly.
Hi. Hi, I have this question for Michael. I know you're not on the show anymore. How do you feel about Sasha dying?
Me or Abraham?
Abraham.
I think Abraham would have appreciated the hell out of what she did. He was just like, okay, you don't have a weapon, so you turned yourself into a weapon. That's my girl.
Thank you very much, guys. I love the show, and I never miss an episode.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm nervous. My question is for Michael Cudlitz. I'm a complete newbie to The Walking Dead, and I haven't read the graphic novels. But what is your opinion on his death being by Negan instead of how it happened in the graphic novels, the way that Denise got Abraham's death from the graphic novels?
How was the difference?
Like, how do you feel? Are you
I think
happier that he got
I think he
bashed
had
his
much
head
more.
in?
Robert Kirkman was never happy with the death that he gave Abraham in the graphic novels. He said that on many occasions. I feel that it was much more soldierly death that he had. And I kind of like, I mean, everybody wants to have a selfless death. Like, that's everybody's like, you know, how do you want to die? I want to go out saving 100 people. You know, it's like, and you can't, like, you can't. Everybody can't. You know, there are deaths in the show that are random, you know, and that happen not in, you know, the way you exactly want them to happen. You know, Beth is a perfect example of that. It's like we spent half a season, you know, or a season and a half looking for her, and she gets accidentally shot. Like, what the hell is that? But that's closer to reality than the fact that everybody gets eaten. With Abraham, I appreciated that he did sort of go out knowing that he was saving others.
I'm not gonna lie, that was my first episode of The Walking Dead ever.
That's a rough one to start on.
You started with
Well,
episode
probably
1,
not,
season
actually,
7.
probably not as rough for you because you didn't really care about anybody
It was because
yet.
of all the hype on Facebook of everybody gonna die, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
I
you
didn't
turned it
even-
on, you
I
watched
didn't
two
even
guys
know
die that you didn't even know.
And I'm like, that ginger guy.
So have you gone back and rewatched
So
it yet?
I watched that episode, decided I loved the show, and then binged everything. And I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it all along, because knowing that Abraham is dead when I watch all those episodes is better. Because he's my favorite character, so...
Just like brutally honest, I love it.
You're a little twisted.
So
me. I'm just going to let you know that right now.
I'm upset that Abraham is dead. But had I been attached to him before that episode, I would have been a mess. And
But you're supposed to be a mess, that's the point.
but
The more you're a mess, the more we're doing our jobs.
and I binge watched everything.
Well, I'm glad you're a new fan. I'm glad his death won you over. Thank you. We have time for just these last 3 questions. We'll do it pretty quickly. Hi.
Hi, I have a question. So, if you could bring one person back from the dead but take someone and kill them, who would it be?
You're asking these two?
All of them.
Wait, isn't everyone up here dead? So yeah, we're gonna bring ourselves back.
But who would you kill to bring yourselves back?
Governor. Well, I don't want to get killed by the governor then. So he likes swinging golf clubs and katana swords. So
I don't know. I mean,
I've been killed so many times, but I've said on occasion that I'm not the hugest Daryl fan, so I.
oh, you just lost the audience, dude. You just lost the audience.
Uh-oh.
No, I mean I love Norman, but I'm not a huge Daryl fan. But yeah, I would take out Daryl. I mean, I've actually begged to be the one to take him out when it's the time.
Come on, what's not to love about Daryl? Come on. Okay.
So I'd take Nick and I'd put the governor there, the straight swap, you know. It's like some sort of. But yeah, I don't know. Although Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I love him. He's a great actor, and I've worked with him, so I'd still like to work with him as well. So it's a hard one, really.
I'd bring back either Shane or Merle.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where y'all hate me. I'd take Baby Judith out.
Come on.
You had to go there.
Thank you.
you just one up the Daryl comment.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
I don't feel so bad
Thank you. Hi, and last question. Hi.
Hi. First of all, thanks for coming. Second of all, I'm actually really new to the series. I'm like first season, so bear with me.
So we spoiled like pretty much everything.
So we're just.
Okay, my friend has already done this. That's the only reason why I know you guys.
Where's your friend at?
She's the one with the Boston Red Sox hat. My question is, who's the biggest prankster?
Who's the biggest prankster on set?
Yeah, between.
Is there anyone in particular that I know you guys have all worked a little bit different seasons, different cast, but anyone stand out as a joker?
Actually, and I think it speaks for. I think that the two that screw with each other the most are Andy and Norman. Consistently. The pace of the show is such that there's not a lot. The fun moments, the hilarious moments come usually out of us working really hard to get something done correctly, and then it's screwing up, and the tension is broken because you're trying so hard to do this thing, you repeatedly do something ridiculous.
You work so hard, and time is not on your side. And speaking very personally, that if I start laughing, then it's really hard to get it back. It can go on for a good half an hour, me just like, you know. And the worst thing is when you as an actor are laughing your head off and crying, laughing, and you turn to the crew and they're like, that's like 4 and you do that. You just carry on laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's horrible, and you
and
can't
you think
stop.
you can get it together, like, yeah, no, okay.
And it's a horrible feeling. It's the worst feeling because everyone wants to go home. They're working hard hours, you know, they haven't got it. And they might laugh for a bit, but after a while it doesn't become funny. So things do happen, but we don't do them deliberately. So we might do them at lunchtime or, you know, back at the trailers or something like that. But on set, honestly, you've just got to keep it together because time, not only is time money, but it's like, you know, it's tough, you know, you gotta keep it together.
Thank you. Did you guys enjoy this hour?
Hey, thank you very much.
You guys, thank you so much for your incredible performances, for being part of the show, and for being